Ready? Let's see, people will start to join us, but I know they can't always see us right away, but they can hear me. I usually go to GMAR Connect and start to see when it starts to feed, and I start talking, even if people can't see us, just so that they know that we're on. And yeah, I'm seeing myself over on to my left-hand side. And I'm joined again by our president, 2020 president of GMAR, Jonathan Lindley, and our president from 2019, Adrian Arriaga Jr., and our president from 2016, Mr. Adrian Arriaga Sr. So I have a full house right now, not literally speaking, but on our Zoom meeting, I have a full house. So welcome, gentlemen.
Howdy.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I know that people are joining. It takes them a little while sometimes to start joining us. And Mr. Arriaga, a few weeks ago, you had reached out because you wanted us to, you wanted to alert not only ourselves, but our members to concern. And it's a very serious and valid concern that we are all interested in, and that is very timely because people started to receive their tax appraisals. And in receiving those tax appraisals, everybody's noticing a big jump in them. I mean, if you look, some people may have more than others, and I can't say that there's, that I for a fact know what amount that everybody was increased, but that's why I have you guys on, because you are very well aware and informed about this issue. And so you brought that, tell me a little bit about why you wanted to make sure that we brought this subject to our membership, to our, not just our members, but that our members brought it up to their clients.
Yes, we've been selling some properties for some school districts, and we found out that the school districts, of course, school districts have to sell property just like everybody else does when they have access properties. And it's interesting when you start listing a property, whether it's a home or some kind of commercial property, and you look at the appraisal district, because we have those tools available that most all of us use, but some of us do not know how to use them really. Turns out that the appraisal that was done by this entity, in this case a school district, came out at a certain amount that was way lower than what the appraisal district had. Now, how could that be? Well, because a lot of land, like most people have, there are from other countries, say Mexico, never protest and never look at their taxes and their valuation, just continues going up. Institutionals, education institutions don't pay taxes, so no one ever looks at them. So the value on paper is a lot higher than the appraisal that had to be done by law in order to sell. And the difference is that that's happening to a lot of people, whether it's going to be their home or an investment that they made because they never checked into it. We as realtors can help our clients by doing exactly that, checking with the appraisal district, find out what the value is, and you'll find out the appraisal district has the last 10 years of the valuation, how it went up or how it came down. And in this case, with the with this virus dilemma that we have, it's going to be very different, especially on commercial properties or investment properties. Properties that have had value have no value because they were told to close down, and some will never open up. So what kind of or tax assistance are we going to get? Because the appraisal is going to say this has the same appraisal as last year or higher, or in essence should be lower because it's not being utilized. So that's the reason I decided to write a letter to the governor. And thanks to President Jonathan, we're going to have a Governmental Affairs Committee meeting on Wednesday to figure out how we can help realtors help their clients bring down their taxes for real estate.
And I think that's why, we wanted to have you on today, because yes, the Political Affairs Committee is meeting on Wednesday, and they'll have a discussion about how we as an association can move forward and what information we can share with the local leaders, county leaders, and the committee will start working on moving forward through that process. But in the meantime, we do want our membership, and there was a growing concern. I know that we received, probably each of us all received a couple of phone calls from a couple of members concerned about it. And so we wanted to say, you know what, maybe there's a little bit more information that, you know, like we have these member Mondays. This is a great time period and moment to share a little bit more. So Adrian, Junior, I know that this is something that you work on a regular basis and you're very familiar with the process. So what are some key things that you feel that that you can share with the rest of our members?
Okay, so first, probably some bad news. So all of the, well, at least some appraised values have already come in. So like I've received one on our properties, and in it, there's a little note that is this, and it says that the appraisal notice represents your property values as of January 1st, per the property tax code. And any impact on values from the current health crisis will be reflected in the 2021 property valuations. There are currently no provisions in the tax code to allow for reduced values for 2020 based on an event such as the current health tax crisis. So for right now, I think all of our members and their clients need to be aware that you can't go in there and say, hey, coronavirus got me and these values got to go down. You know, anybody that's protested their own values know that just as the county says, the values are set on January 1st. So we can go backwards in time. Typically, it's like in the past year for residential, a little bit more for commercial. You know, if you have access to comps, to the MLS, to CoStar, to different things that are available to you, you can go in there armed to the appraisal district and very logically protest your tax value. Something that happened during the course of this year is not going to help your argument to lower your taxes from last year. That's just how it's going to be. And I think our members and our clients are going to need to be prepared, because when times are good and when we have all the vital information, the appraisal district, let's be honest, they're not willing to really work with you a lot of times. I've gone in there armed with our MLS sold data in the specific neighborhood that I'm looking at with 10, 20 sold comparables in the past 12 months. And I'm told, I'm sorry, but our computer says that it's a different number. And those are when times are good. And those are when there's actual data that the county tax assessor will go on TV and ask, you know, everybody, well, we don't really know all the values all the time, so we need sold data. You go and take sold data and it's not really helpful. What we're probably going to have to look for in terms of, you know, coronavirus is we're going to have to see how this year ends up, what ends up happening, and then we have to lean on our realtors, to lean on our state officials, our state congressmen, our state senators, to really tell them, hey, look, the tax rates are not the issue here. There's no one way that any county, including Hidalgo County or Cameron County, assesses their value. It's sort of like a secret. You can go in there.
Can I barge in here, Mijo? Because that's the part that a person like me that have seen the cycles happen in, I guess, in the late 70s, when the peso first devalued, the world comes to an end, everything comes back. But just because someone, and the law is that the values have to be the way they are on January 1st, 2020. But we have some leverage, and that's what Jason Harrison told me and President Jonathan, that, hey, how come we have to be told what needs to be done when basically the truth is it doesn't work that way? Never before have we traveled in this kind of woods before. Never before have we been told to close down. Never before have we been told to stay at home. So rules have changed. So can the rules be changed at the county level? Of course they can. Now, how are they going to be done? That's why I wrote the letter to the governor's office saying, hey, Mr. Governor Abbott, we need your help, and we need you now, because the hurt is going to be the remainder of this year. And again, might be remainder of 2021 and 22. But we need to do everything that we can. Possibly might not be able to work, but let's try, like Jason told me, and see if we can do it, because we have some real problems. And it's not that we don't want to pay taxes. We just want to pay our fair share of taxes, because we are going to have a problem. The city, the county, the schools are going to have to live off the budget, but like we all have to, we have to tighten our belt. And we need to do something out of the ordinary because it's not ordinary times anymore. And then part two, there is the part about the tax rate, not the assessed value. The tax rates are done at the budget committee meetings for the city, the county, and the schools in the fall, in the summer and the fall. And you're going to find out that we're going to be asking, hopefully, because President Jonathan is going to recommend that we visit all cities and their budget committee meetings and talk to them about, hey guys, can we hold back for the next year or two? Because at some point in time, we got to do something to help the our property owners.
Oh, I had muted myself, sorry.
You know, just to kind of piggyback on that, I know that so this isn't a legislative year, but starting next year, you know, we're going to have to see how much leverage that the realtors are going to have, because this is happening in every county in the state. And, you know, this is going to be a tough year for a lot of people. And just like it was said earlier, there's going to be companies, there's the companies that are not going to come out of this. And there's unfortunately going to be people that are going to start losing, you know, their homes from this. It's just what's going to happen. So I think that we need to be prepared to ask our legislators, hey, you know, the realtors have been there for you for a very long time. And now the people that we represent, they need to be heard. And I think that that's one thing that I know that on the calls that I've been in with Texas realtors, and you know, a whole bunch of us are on the same type of calls, everyone is talking about, you know, this issue in one way or another for next year. So it's just something that we're going to have to be prepared for.
And, you know, next year is a legislative year, and that's when we take the time to go to visit our legislators in Austin. And every year in May, we're usually in DC visiting our legislative body there too. But that doesn't mean that we as an association and individual members wait until then to reach out to them. Jonathan, maybe you can talk a little bit about, you know, your experiences in how we and our members, what they can do right now to start reaching out to the legislative body.
Yeah, you know, and this one doesn't have to do with the taxing, but I had an agent in my office who got a letter, you know, for rezoning, that they're going to try to develop a apartment complex right by her house. She asked what to do, and I told her definitely reach out to the city. The city is meeting today, you know, and with all this that's going on, obviously meetings in person aren't happening. But it's just a matter of reaching out to our local officials, whether that be your city or your county officials, and working to get on their radar, working to get in front of them, to speak to them. I know Mr. Arriaga Sr. has had great success in reaching out to county officials, local officials, state officials. And you know, that's kind of what we need to do, is just start getting in front of our county officials, our local officials. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Jason Hardison is part of City of Mission, and I know in Mission he's doing what he can to help out with that as well. But you know, as Mr. Arriaga said a little while ago, it's not just residential; it's commercial that's going to be affected. It's you know, if you're an investor and have rental properties, you're going to be affected by it. You're going to be, you know, your taxes are going to be due on everything. So I know what I have done is I have some contacts with City of McAllen, you know, from friends that used to work there. They've put me in contact with some people. So I'm trying to do what I can in McAllen on my side.
I know that there's Mr. Arriaga Sr., you know, you've been around the block for some time, and not just with the association, but in the community. And you established the relationships and talk about how you establish relationships with the local leadership from day one. I mean, from a long time ago. It's not, you know, you can reach out to leadership, but when you're establishing relationships, the phone calls get a little easier. They're more likely to get answered.
It's true, but when I talk to people about doing a business plan, and when you first get into real estate, it's real simple. Business plan can be real simple as much. And my business plan had always been pass out business cards to as many people as I can and join all the organizations from the JCs, the Rotary to Heart Association and pass out business cards. That's my business plan. And with that, you get to develop relationships, which is important for you to stay in business. And the only difference between myself, been around over 40 years in this business, and a new person been just in 4 months, is that my relationships are deeper than anybody else's, the new person. And it's sort of like planting a tree. Once you plant the tree, and the tree has to survive and has to fight for water, it has to fight for sunlight in the forest. And if it doesn't have the information, it has to have access to that kind of stuff, it will not survive. We need to help our local realtors, no matter how long they've been in business, or especially the new ones, to make sure they survive. And that is help them and give them the tools like we do for through GMAR and Texas Realtors and NAR. And if someone is doing real estate by themselves, they're not going to survive. There's no way. And part of that is understanding why governments exist. And governments exist because we want a quality of life that's good. We want to be able to have good schools, good streets, security. So we have to pay taxes. But keep in mind that paying taxes is only part of that. We have to make sure that we pay taxes only on the stuff that's necessary, especially in time of needs. When times are great, like Adrian was saying, it's easy. And right now, times are going to be very, very tough. So we got to help each other and also be able to help the local policymakers.
You know, and I kind of wanted to go back a little bit to Adrian Jr. When you were talking about assessing this year's assessed values, and we're not going to be able to really for our current appraisals that we've just received to go to COVID, since it's in this year, and ask for relief from the amounts of the appraisal values from last year. What can we look at? What are some things that, as membership, that they should be looking to do to ask for that relief?
So it's pretty easy. So in the mail that you get for your appraisal notices, you're going to see that this year's tax protest deadline is Monday, May the 18th. And in there, it's going to give you different options. It gives you an electronic option, which is really not recommended for a couple of different reasons. But mainly, the electronic option doesn't get you in front of anybody. This year, in every county, is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be by video hearing. So kind of like what everyone's doing, like what we're doing right now, like through like a Zoom type of meeting. That's how you're going to meet with your, that's how you're going to do your protest. And if you have to go to an appraisal review board, it's going to be the same way. And right now, there's no one way or another that's been told to anybody how it's going to work. But there is a lot of talk out there about, if you don't agree with your initial protest, the appraisal review board could be a board of one, just kind of one-on-one like this. Typically, it's in front of 3, 5, or 7. One, if you get somebody on a good day, it could work. If you don't, it could work against you. But what you're gonna look for when you go and protest your properties, you're going to want, of course, the form that you can find on the hidalgoad.org website. You're going to go to property owners notice of protest, fill in all your information. But if you don't want to do it yourself and you want some representation, you're going to also need the form that's called appointment of agent. And in Texas, there are 2 ways that you can have representation for you to go protest your property tax values if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself. You can use what's called a property tax consultant, or you can be represented by a real estate broker or agent that is registered in the state as a property tax consultant. And it's no different from what the realtors use for continuing education. They get a license and you have to take X amount of hours. Every year you pay your fee and you're registered and licensed with the state to do property tax protests. Once that happens, typically on a residential property, you're going to find out through your representative or yourself or with a realtor friend of yours, hey, I live in neighborhood XYZ and I want to find the comps from the last year, from the last 12 months, typically January to December of the previous year. And you're going to see where the sales prices are compared to what your assessed value is this year. If it's higher, then there's your information and you go and fight that way. If you are lower, chances are you're better off staying at home and saying, thanks for the low value, and I'll see you next year. Typically it ends there, but for some people, they're not happy with the value still from there. If you're not happy with the value, you go one more step to the Appraisal Review Board. And in the past, it is here in Hidalgo County, it's the room off to the north side of the building. Looks kind of like a courtroom. The Appraisal Review Board has always been told to us that it is an independent group, separate and non anything from the appraisal district. But let's be honest, the review board meets at the appraisal district office, and there's no way that you can tell me that they are completely unbiased. It's just the way that it is. And anybody that's gone to protest and has won or lost knows that there's no way that's 100% independent from the appraisal district. If you still don't like your relief from there, there's one more way to go. It's much more complicated, and you can actually go to district court. You can file, with the court. You have X amount of days to do it, but typically there's a limit on what your property is worth to keep protesting higher. Typically the value is at about $1 million or more for residential property, but many of us are not in that high percentage there. Typically you're going to get your relief from the review board or from the initial protest. Now, one thing that that you get also in your notice from the appraisal district, it tells you how to protest. It tells you some basic information, but what it doesn't tell you, it never gives the public options on how to protest, such as like representation. They tell you you can come in with whatever information you have, but it never really tells you, hey, there are groups of people out there that can help. Because let's be honest here, a lot of the budget for the county comes from the tax collecting. One other way of getting your voice heard is the property tax assessor collector is that's an elected position. I'm not sure if this is an election year for that position, but when that time comes, the people in Hidalgo County can have a pretty big voice to go and say, hey,
let me interject again. Let me say one more thing, if I can, Adrian and Monica and President Jonathan. And I just saw the note from Betty Gaston, and she's right. She wants to know what can we do, what should we do to do with the appraisal district. You might want to start again, Adrian, about the bad news, the notification right off the bat, and mention that for the people that just got on what they tell you when you open.
Yeah, so for those that didn't hear the beginning of it, in your notices of appraisal value, there's a little sheet of paper in there, and it's going to tell you that this appraisal notice represents your property value as of January 1st, 2020 per the property tax code. Any impact on values from the current health crisis will be reflected in 2021 property valuations. There are currently no provisions in the tax code to allow for reduced values for 2020 based on events such as the current health crisis. And I wish that wasn't the case, but I mean, that's how it is. We're still in April here. We're still, barely in the second quarter, of this year. And everybody just needs to be prepared to get that answer if you're going to go with that one argument to the appraisal district. You're going to have to be prepared to hear, hey, on January 1st, we use the value of properties from 2019, from January 1st to December 31st of 2019. That's how they get their value. We're going to have to write out the rest of the year to see how 2020 impacts values, how it impacts sales. But right now, you cannot realistically go to the appraisal district and make that argument.
Well, I think, let me interrupt again. I really think, and Betty Gaston and I had a conversation earlier last week about that, maybe we should. And of course, they have a law they have to follow, and the law says that the market value and assessed values are the same thing. And that makes a lot of sense. And we need to continue with that. But the main thing is that the rules have changed in life. We just want to be fair. We want to make sure that we know, and the common sense dictates, if a business is closed down for 2-3 weeks or 2-3 months, it's not going to come back. And if it is, it'll be at a reduced value. On commercial properties, a house, you have little to fight with because you still live in the house and you might not like the value they give it, but you still have advantage of living in that house. But what if you have investments? You have 2 houses you rent out and those tenants left because they don't have a job. Those are going to be impacted. Some way, somehow, the law needs to be looked at pretty quick. Can it be done? Absolutely done. And in war, everybody has to roll up their sleeves and be able to fight, make sure that we all survive. This is a matter of survival. And we need to make sure that our policymakers, our elected officials understand that. But the only way to do that is that you and we, the realtors, the voice of real estate, make it a point to tell our elected officials, hey guys, just for this year, let's change the rules. Of course, there's a law. Let's see how we can change the law. It has been done before. Absolutely not. But we've never had a crisis like this before in history of man. And that's the reason I bring it up.
Yeah, I think the point is just, I mean, that's great if it can happen because, and also keep in mind, this isn't the bill. The bill comes out, you know, late October, November, December, whenever you get it. So the taxes are not due now, but people need to understand right now, that's the response that every one of us is going to get if you only go in there with that argument.
Yeah, I think Mr. Arriaga is correct as far as residential goes. And, maybe there needs to be a change in the law, but that's going to be a long process as well. And I know that our state leadership and the people within the political affairs, if they're looking at over the summer to start getting a message together and to start affecting this issue on property appraisals on a statewide level. So we know that this is not an issue that we're, nobody locally and statewide are taking lightly. We're all looking at it and concerned, and I really appreciate you guys coming on. And I know the Political Affairs Committee is going to meet on Wednesday, and they're going to possibly then say, okay, these are the actions that we need to move forward with, et cetera. And so our local association is going to act on this concern, and on a statewide level, they're looking at creating a message that is unified and cohesive throughout the state, so that our state leadership is looking at next year's legislative session and providing that relief legislatively that Mr. Arriaga is speaking about. And Adrian Jr., we appreciate you coming on and giving us some real information, concrete, specific, detailed information for our membership to move forward and understand what these appraisal values mean and the increase in the appraisal values or tax bill, and how they can move forward to get relief. Jonathan, thank you for coming in and coming on. Any last words, Jonathan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and Mr. Arriaga, I appreciate it. Adrian, I appreciate it. If anybody has any contacts for local officials that they feel that we need to reach out to, or if they don't feel like reaching out to them, reach out to me, Adrian Jr., Mr. Arriaga. I'm sure they could reach out to you all as well. We'd gladly make that phone call or set up that face-to-face to meet with them. But it is an important subject. It is something that everybody's going to be, having to deal with here the rest of this year and into next year. But as leadership, we are here trying to help out.
And the important takeaways that I wanted to make sure to go over, just to review one last time, is the deadline to protest is May the 18th. Was that correct, Adrian? And yes. That for the layperson, like myself, I'm not a realtor, so I consider myself a layperson. If I want to protest and the steps are there for me to follow, but I can also seek somebody out to help me if I want to protest my valuation. And I know that Adrian, you are one of the people that can do that. I know there's others, and if you are somebody that can help out, or you have resources, make sure to put the information in the comments. And we'll also try to put up any information or resources within the comments as they are available.
Monica, if I can add just one last thing, and thank you so much for inviting me, President Jonathan, on this call.
You're welcome.
The important part is we're going to need help on the Governmental Affairs Committee because, like Betty Gasson is saying, yes, we can do stuff in Austin, but it's going to take a year, but we can do things locally. And locally, what we're going to need is, we're going to discuss on Wednesday's meeting, is assigning task forces for each city and each area where people are going to ask realtors to understand what's going on and be able to speak up, because that's part of the process. All cities, all counties, all taxing entities will have a public budget for public input. We need to be present at these meetings, and that's where the tax rates are going to be set. So it's a two-edged sword, not so much the tax rate, but it's and then the assessed value of your property is what's going to happen. And I got some input already from individual realtors we're going to bring up on Wednesday, and that is such as what happens if we don't pay our taxes for 2020, and we just wait to debate it next year, if and when the law changes. And what if a lot of people don't ever pay their taxes? It's happened before, not in the United States, but people get so upset and so hurt, not because they just don't want to pay taxes, because we like all the services we get. It just has to be fair. If it's not fair, I think people are going to start bringing up different points like that. And also how we should assess all the appraisal boards. Right now it's set up by law. Maybe it should be done differently to have more input from the public versus from the taxing entities. Now, this was brought up to me by several people from Austin that I think we can discuss on Wednesday. Thank you so much for letting me be part of this group.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining.
You're always welcome, Mr. Arriaga. You're a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you.
Definitely.
Thank you, guys. And this will end our Membership Monday live Facebook feed event. And we look forward to talking with everyone next week.
See y'all.
Everyone have a good day and a good week.
Thank you.